vast majority of Americans, as Congressman Carter just said, they want elections to be secure. The majority of Americans of all political persuasions, conservative, Republican, Democrats, and independents, said they did not trust our election results. So isn't this a step in the direction of ensuring that people feel confidence in our way of life and in our government and in our elections?
It absolutely is. What Georgia did is what, frankly, the state of Florida has done prior. When I served in the legislature, we did similar things. We have a no solicitation zone, which is 150 feet from the polling location, where outside groups or candidates or political parties cannot solicit or provide things of value to voters while they're standing in line. Florida's been doing it for a very long time. Now Georgia's doing it in their law. And so these are good things that actually protect the sanctity of the vote and also secure the ballots. That way everybody believes in the final count and we don't have the acrimony we have seen. But unfortunately, you have people like the President of the United States and Stacey Abrams who are flat out lying, trying to use this trope that is Jim Crow or Jim Eagle or people can't even get water. Those are lies. And frankly, this falls to the owners in Major League Baseball and the people sitting on the board of directors at Coca-Cola and Delta and Yes American Airlines, because they need to actually go read the law themselves and stop believing lies being put out there by the president and Democrats on the left.
Well, Congressman Carter, I'll come to you because I've always said that the people on the left, they don't want everyone to vote. They want voting to be mindless so that they can get people to vote for the candidates that they prefer. How do we get people to understand, to Congressman Donalds' point, that this is not about people being prevented from voting? This is simply about us putting criteria in place that make sure that we are not preying on the naiveties of the people who actually cast their vote.
Before this law went into effect last November, you had to have a photo ID in the state of Georgia in order to vote in person. But if you voted absentee, all you had to do was match up a signature. Now, thanks to this new law that I applaud the legislature for enacting, you have to have a photo ID. When I get on an airplane with Delta Airlines, I have to have a photo ID. There's no question about that. Photo ID should not be a problem. But this is exactly, Byron is exactly right. He's spot on here. Democrats don't want them to have to think. They perceive people as not being able to think. People actually want this. This is what the public has been asking for. They've been asking for safe, secure elections, and this is what they're going to get. If you voted legally last November, you can vote legally now. But if you cheated last November, you're going to have a lot harder time cheating this time.
Now, Congressman Donalds, I come to you. You have these companies. Coca-Cola has spoken up about this. You've got Delta, all these private companies making decisions. How do we get conservatives to recognize also that the companies aren't the ones with the actual financial power? The people are the ones with the power, because all the money the companies have comes from people patronizing their businesses.
Well, I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to be watching Major League Baseball. You can figure that out right now. It's going to be a little bit harder with American Airlines because that's my direct flight to D.C., but I might have to get on the JetBlue flight and make sure my staff knows that's how I fly. I think it's time that Americans actually take a page out of the woke left and start standing up to these companies and tell these companies you're not going to play these games with them. And I know there's many members up on Capitol Hill who are looking at baseball's antitrust exemption and getting rid of that finally. They should have never had it to begin with, but they have it now, and it's time for that to go as well. It's important that people understand one very important thing. If you want to protest and stand on the side of what's right and just, go ahead and do that. But if you're going to penalize parts of our country, if you're going to penalize, frankly, the second largest black city in America based upon lies, well, then there's a price that's going to be paid for that. And I think that conservatives need to start voting with their pocketbook. And once that starts happening, these companies are going to reconsider. Last thing I'll say about that, some of these companies need to consider their ties with the Chinese, with the country of China, because China has an awful record when it comes to human rights, but they got no business. They got no problem doing business with China. I know MLB does business with China, so if this is going to be their standard, just be consistent. I'm quite sure everybody would love that.
Absolutely, out of sight, out of mind. It's really out of control here, and the things that no one's talking about is that whether you're talking about cities burning over the summer or you're talking about businesses pulling out of Georgia, at the heart of that are black and brown businesses that often are the ones that are the hardest hit, that end up not being being able to rebuild by the time the people are done with their virtue signaling. Congressman Carter of Georgia, Congressman Donalds of Florida, God bless you both. Enjoy your Easter. We'll talk to you both soon.
Thank you.